Hey guys, Ice Hockey Aussies here again for another first round series breakdown. This time we've got the Colorado Avalanche versus the Seattle Kraken. Now, this one here is just, it intrigues me immensely. The Seattle Kraken in their second year make the playoffs. They've played so well all throughout the year. They make the playoffs. It's an incredible story. And they come up against the reigning Stanley Cup champions in Colorado Avalanche, but they come up against a injury-plagued Colorado Avalanche. Jaden, get us kicked off with some of the stats.
Alrighty. So yeah, Avs end up finishing on top with 109 points, and Seattle get the wild card spot in first place for 100 points. Seattle do have Colorado's number seems this season. Obviously, some of the games would have been through Colorado's injury-prone times. So they win two games and lose one in OT against Colorado. On to special teams. Colorado definitely have the power play over Seattle, and they have the penalty kill over Seattle. Even though it's not the greatest of penalty kills, it'll do just fine. Goals for Seattle have it over the Avs, which you wouldn't expect really. Um, but it has been an injury-prone season for the Avs, and they are going to be missing their captain through the playoffs. And then you got goals against per game. Uh, Avs are big, just conceding less goals. So honestly, it's pretty fair. It goes left, right kind of situation. It weighs depending what you weigh in high regard, which way you lean on who's winning in the special teams department and goals for department. I think they are Avs are going to be getting like Kale McCarr back for game one, possibly. Somewhat healthy, and a couple other players like Lekanen, I think, and there was one more I'm just forgetting off the top of my head, but they are getting some of their core back, which is scary for Seattle. Seattle front, like you said, first time playoffs. You're versing the reigning champions. Honestly, it couldn't be better. It is kind of a hey, we made it type of situation. Doesn't really matter what happens. This is the series, though. I think that I nailed down as my upset. Like the biggest chance for an upset is Seattle upsetting at the Avs here. I think Seattle's a very strong, good team. We've said it all season. Um, their stats on the plus five, best five players on each team also says it. They're all got positive plus minuses on both teams. You can see none of Seattle's team players made over a point per game, and that just shows their depth. And that's what scares me about Seattle. In regards to the Avs, what scares me about them is I think Nathan McKinnon and Rantanen have hit next level. McKinnon's playing, honestly, I would say on par with McDavid. I think he's hit that next level. I don't know if it's sustainable, but watching him, it's actually been insane. And he can have that factor where he could just probably carry the series possibly as well. So yeah, I've got Avs winning in 6 games 4-2. Though I think this is a very strong chance that Kraken take this away from the Avs.
Yeah, I think, if you were thinking of an upset in this series, I mean, it's hard with a few of these games to really say any game's an upset with, you know, how tight some of these series are. I think there's probably maybe three series that you could say if a certain team won it would be classified as an upset. All the other series, I think either way it goes, I think they're both evenly paired. But yeah, I'd agree with you. This would be one of the ones that yeah, if they did could get it done, I would say Seattle would be one of those teams. And I think it's just comes off the back of they've got such a good defensive structure. Um, and they can really shut teams down and keep shots to a minimum in games. My big concern, and we've spoken about this a lot throughout the season, is their goaltending. I just don't think it's a goaltending tandem that's built for playoffs. And that's my major concern. But you were, 100% spot on. Like 3.52 goals for a game. and they don't have a single point per game player, which just shows you that they're not. It's not just the first line or second line or whatever. It's going all the way down to their fourth. They're getting a lot of depth scoring and all the rest of that throughout their lines. So they've got a pretty solid team from top to bottom. It's just really comes down to that goaltending that deeply concerns me, especially against a team like Colorado with the firepower they have. I mean, Gabriel Landeskog being ruled out for the entire playoffs is an absolute. It's a travesty in a sense because he's such a great player, and you don't want to see a player. You don't want to see anyone missing out on something like this, but especially not a player of his caliber. Um, so that obviously bodes in Seattle's favor a little bit, but I still think the Avs power and their strength um, on offense is just going to overwhelm Seattle. I think they're new to the playoffs. It's it's going to be overwhelming, especially coming up against the reigning champions. Um, I do think they'll snatch a game or two though, and yeah, I think if Seattle can compose themselves early and not get overwhelmed, they're a good chance to steal this series. But ultimately, I think Colorado's talent's just going to be too much.
Yeah. Oh, I think if Seattle bring their forechecking, which they've been prone for this year, and if they actually bring it, I think they shut down Avs. They've done it through the season, shutting down with their forecheck, shutting down their skating and their movement. However, I it's kind of like the Edmonton Oilers with McDavid. I think it's a McKinnon factor, and honestly, Rantanen doesn't get talked about enough as well. But Rantanen as well. But I think McKinnon is just like that McDavid factor that Edmonton Oilers have. He's just a freak at the moment. He's gotten even better in the last stretch to the end of the season, and he's proven in playoffs. I think he'll carry the series. However, you know, you do have like powerhouses like McKinnon, Ranton, and McCarr that can help carry the series, but I feel like Seattle have the proper full squad and structure and system that can shut this team down. And that's really what it is at the moment. It's going to be, fast skating, skilled players versus a full team with structure and system that's a bit fresh and young, but untested, I'd say. I guess you would want to say is in goalie or goaltending. It's probably you need that structure in front of that goaltending because you can't really rely on it. Like you, and look, the Avs don't have the greatest goaltending either. Um, but they've proven they didn't need it last year, so they've got that up the bag as well. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
Avs 4-2, just purely because I think McKinnon is going to do some crazy things in this playoffs.
Yeah. I'll put this out here. I mean, even if Seattle do lose in the first round, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think as long as they compete and they're in the games and they don't get blown to pieces and get swept, it's going to be a good experience for this side. The other thing I will say is if with the structure these guys have, if you imagine putting an actual goaltender in front of um behind the structure they've got.
Hmm.
You know, imagine having a top 10 caliber goaltender in this structure that Seattle are building. I think the future's very bright for these guys, whether or not they win or they come even close to winning this series. I think next year and the years on are extremely bright for them as long as they continue in the upwards trajectory and address the areas that they're lacking, like the goaltending. But yeah, it's great to see. Really happy to see that they made the playoffs in only their second year.
Hmm.
Um, but ultimately, yeah, I think the Avs are going to be too strong. Yeah, 4-2 for me as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be sad to see one of these teams go. These two teams are like some of my favorite teams, honestly. Um, love the Avs. I love the Seattle just for being the Kraken. Their color scheme is amazing, and I'm glad they both at least made it into the playoffs this year because it wasn't looking good for at least the Avs at the start anyway. But I guess we'll leave it there. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content like this and coverage of the playoffs going forward, and leave a comment below on what you think is going to happen through this series, who's going to win, if we're right, if we're wrong, if this is the upset series that we think it's going to be, possibly. And until then, we'll see you guys for the next video.
Take care, guys.